we step back, far back, to a time long before the pyramids, before Rome, before even the first cities. Imagine a world where ice sheets crept across Europe, where forests whispered in frozen winds, and where small groups of humans struggled each day simply to survive. In this journey, we'll explore the lives of the Neanderthals, a distant cousin of ours who walked the earth for hundreds of thousands of years. We'll travel into their shelters, feel the chill of their endless winters, and quietly observe how they hunted, crafted, and endured a world harsher than we can imagine. But tonight, there is no rush. We'll move slowly through the deep past, allowing the story to unfold like the steady rhythm of ancient footsteps in snow. By the end, perhaps you'll drift into sleep, carried by the quiet hum of history. It is 60,000 years ago. The sun is low in a pale sky, and the air carries the faint scent of pine and damp earth. You're standing on the edge of a frozen valley, somewhere in Ice Age Europe. In the distance, the quiet world stretches endlessly, vast open plains where herds of mammoths slowly graze, their silhouettes fading into soft, rising mist. The wind moves gently, carrying whispers of cold across your skin. For the Neanderthals, this was home. Their lives unfolded in a world where every season demanded resilience. Winters were long and unforgiving. The rivers froze, the nights stretched endlessly, and food was never guaranteed. Yet they endured, patiently, deliberately. Inside their shelters, often caves carved deep into limestone cliffs, the air was heavy with the faint scent of smoke. Fires burned low, their orange glow flickering softly across stone walls. Skins and furs were carefully arranged to keep out the cold. A Neanderthal family huddled together, conserving warmth in silence broken only by the crackle of fire and distant echoes of wind outside. Their tools, chipped from flint, rested close by. A spear leans against the wall, its wooden shaft smooth from countless hunts. Beside it, small stone scrapers used to prepare hides, essential for creating the furs they wrapped tightly around their bodies. And here, among these quiet moments, you begin to understand their rhythm. Each day was shaped by a simple truth. Survival meant adapting. Neanderthals became masters of their environment, reading subtle changes in the weather, following the migration of animals, and crafting tools suited perfectly to the world around them. Imagine the quiet of an early morning. Frost gathers on the edges of a cave entrance. A group prepares to leave for the hunt, stepping into the stillness of an untouched world. The silence is broken only by the crunch of snow beneath their feet, the slow, steady rhythm of breath clouding into the icy air. Hunting was never guaranteed. Success meant life. Failure meant hunger. But Neanderthals worked together, small, tightly knit groups relying on silent cooperation, on unspoken understanding built through generations of shared struggle. And yet, despite the cold, despite the danger, there was balance here. The land provided, in its own quiet way, and they learned to listen. This first glimpse into their lives is just the beginning. In the next part of our journey, we'll step deeper into their world, tracing not only their survival but their remarkable ingenuity. We'll discover how Neanderthals adapted their tools, crafted shelters, and left behind traces of a rich, complex life. Imagine the soft hush of a glacial morning. The sky glows faintly with pale light, and a thin layer of frost sparkles along the edges of stone and earth. Somewhere, deep within a cave, a single figure sits near the dim embers of a fire. In their hands rests a piece of flint, cool and smooth, waiting to be transformed. This was the quiet work of Neanderthals, shaping survival from stone. For hundreds of thousands of years, they relied on their ingenuity to endure some of the harshest environments our planet has known. Their tools, while simple in appearance, were remarkably sophisticated. A flake carefully struck from flint became a scraper sharp enough to clean animal hides. A stone core, shaped with patient precision, became a spearhead, designed to withstand both the force of impact and the cold grip of endless winters. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine sitting beside them. The faint, rhythmic sound of stone striking stone, the soft exhale of breath in the cold air, the quiet satisfaction when a perfect edge is formed. These tools were more than objects. They were an extension of thought, evidence of planning, memory, and shared knowledge. Generation after generation, techniques were passed down by imitation, by gentle instruction, by the slow rhythm of learning over time. And beyond tools, there were signs of something even deeper. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of pigments, red ochre and black manganese, suggesting that Neanderthals painted their bodies, perhaps their surroundings. There are carvings, deliberate and patient, etched into bone and stone. At some sites, eagle talons were carefully shaped into ornaments, strung together as if to create a necklace. Imagine that for a moment, a glimmer of individuality in a cold and unforgiving world. A quiet statement. I am here. I exist. Even more remarkable are the burials. Across Europe, archaeologists have found evidence that Neanderthals buried their dead deliberately, often arranging bodies carefully, sometimes with tools or flowers placed nearby. This suggests something profound, a consciousness of life and death, a sense of belonging, and perhaps the earliest whispers of belief outside the caves, their ingenuity extended to survival. When temperatures plunged, Neanderthals adapted their shelters using mammoth bones, wooden frameworks, and hides to create insulated spaces against the wind. Fire, too, became an art, controlled, nurtured, and understood. The soft crackle of flames not only brought warmth, but also light in the darkness, protection from predators, and a place where stories, knowledge, and silent bonds could be shared. Step back for a moment and picture this scene. A cold evening. The firelight dances gently along stone walls, shadows stretching and fading with the flickering glow. A small group gathers close, skins wrapped tightly, their faces lit softly by embers. One sharpens a spear, another tends to the flames. A child drifts into sleep against a mother's side, lulled by the low murmur of ancient voices. There is no hurry here. Time itself feels slower, measured only by the rhythm of heartbeats and the steady pulse of survival. These glimpses into their lives, their tools, their ornaments, their burials, paint a picture of people who were far more than instinct-driven hunters. They were thinkers, planners, creators of meaning, however quiet and subtle it may have been. In our next part of the journey, we'll step into the mysteries of their existence. We'll explore how Neanderthals interacted with early modern humans, why they eventually vanished, and what traces of them remain within us, even today. The cold winds sweep softly across a barren plain. The stars above are bright, unbroken by city lights, the same endless expanse that the Neanderthals once looked upon tens of thousands of years ago. It was a world vast and quiet, yet slowly, quietly, something was changing. Around 60,000 years ago, a new presence began to drift across their lands. Early Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors. These humans came from Africa, carrying with them new tools, new strategies, and, perhaps, a different way of thinking. Imagine for a moment the first time a small group of Neanderthals might have seen them. Across a riverbank, in the distance, faint figures moving carefully through the trees. Strangers who looked similar, yet subtly different. There might have been hesitation, curiosity, perhaps quiet observation hidden among the shadows. For thousands of years, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens coexisted across Europe and Western Asia. Sometimes they may have avoided one another entirely, each holding to familiar hunting grounds and sheltering places. Other times, perhaps, they competed for food, for territory, for survival itself. And yet, they also met. The evidence is written within us. When scientists sequenced the Neanderthal genome, they found something extraordinary. Almost 2% of the DNA of most people outside Africa today comes from Neanderthals. This means they didn't simply vanish. Instead, there was connection, interbreeding, and the quiet mingling of worlds. Close your eyes and imagine that moment of meeting. Two small groups gathered around separate fires, their flickering light merging softly as they approach. The air carries the scent of smoke and pine. The sounds are hushed, uncertain. And yet hands extend, tools are traded, words, if they existed, are shared. For a brief time, the boundaries between us and them blurred. But then slowly the balance began to shift. By about 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals began to disappear from the archaeological record. Why? The answer remains a mystery, woven from fragments of evidence and quiet theories. Some scientists believe it was climate change, as glaciers advanced and retreated. The forests and grasslands shifted, and the game they relied upon dwindled. Others think competition with Homo sapiens, who brought more efficient tools and perhaps larger social networks, gradually pushed them to the margins. Disease, too, may have played a role carried unknowingly by new populations moving across the land. Perhaps it was not one cause, but many, a slow unraveling rather than a single catastrophe. And yet, there's something gentle, even comforting in knowing that they are not entirely gone. Every time you breathe deeply, every time you touch the earth, every time you stand beneath the stars, tiny fragments of their story live on, carried silently within our own DNA. In certain traits, the shape of a jawline, the strength of a hand, the way some of us respond to cold, echoes of their existence remain. The Neanderthals are not a vanished people, not completely. They are part of us. Now, as we prepare to enter the final part of this journey, we'll step away from the mystery of their disappearance and return to something quieter, more intimate. In segment 4, we'll drift into their daily lives once more, their families, their social bonds, their sense of belonging, imagining the soft rhythms of existence in a frozen world.